Is your dream to live like Laura Ingalls Wilder in Little House on the Prairie? We have a loan for you. Hey everybody, I'm Devin Cronin with Coldwell Banker.
Joe Brandenburg with Preferred Rate, guys.
And a lot of people that I talk to, Joe, right now, they want to get away from the city. They want space. They want acreage. They want a homestead.
That's the one right there.
They want a hobby farm. They want to have chickens and ducks and goats and mules and horses and cows and sheep and all this stuff. Grow their own food, have their own eggs, process their own meat. Some of them just don't want to see people.
Absolutely. And before you get an entire petting zoo, I would say you got to get the house first, right?
It usually helps because I'll tell you this, I live in Covington.
Yeah.
And that is not going to fly.
No, that won't fly.
So if you want something like that, or you just want some space, maybe you want to have woods, maybe you want to hike, maybe you want to have a camp area for, bring all the friends and family out, whatever you want to do. Again, maybe you just don't want to see people around you.
Yeah.
Then you're not going to be looking along the river cities, Covington, Newport, Bellevue, Dayton, Ludlow. You're going to have to look a little bit further out. And I can tell you, I've sold a lot of houses in Falmouth, Pendleton County. I've sold several houses in Williamstown, Dry Ridge, Crittenden, Grant County. I've been out in Warsaw and sold a couple houses out there right along the river. There are some beautiful areas with some fantastic properties.
Yeah.
And there is a very specific loan that you can't use if you're in Covington. You can't use if you're in Cincinnati. But if you're going somewhere where there's some space, even if it's not a bunch of acreage.
So it's based on the census, actually. So really the point is that if it's an area that doesn't have a lot of people living in it, and it's based off of the census. So unfortunately it happened last year where a lot of independence fell off as being...
Because independence is growing.
It's growing, exactly. But it's probably closer to Cincinnati than you think. Mm-hmm. About 25 minutes out, I think, is where really the border starts.
Yeah.
It's a great option. It's no money down. There's a funding fee, but we're talking about minimal stuff in comparison to...
No money down.
Right. No money down. You can have seller concessions. I mean, you can get into a house for the cost of an appraisal, an inspection, and earnest money deposit.
And a U-Haul, baby.
Yeah. I mean, it's about as cheap as it gets to get into a house.
So let me paint a picture for you, okay? Two different scenarios. One, you look at a cute little community like Crittenden or Falmouth, okay? Two different areas, but both cute little communities. There's some shops, there's some restaurants, there's civilization, but these are smaller rural communities.
Right.
You can live in those towns and use this USDA loan.
USDA.
You're buying a $300,000 house, and here's how much money you are going to spend out of pocket to buy that house. You're going to look at about $500 for an inspection. You're going to look at what, $600 for an appraisal?
Yeah, yes.
All right. You're going to look at what else?
Well, the earnest money would be negotiable in the contract.
Which in this market, Northern Kentucky market, is $500,000,
right?
Maybe a little bit more. So you buy a $300,000 house. And you're talking about I can move into that house with under $2 out of my pocket, earnest money, inspection, appraisal, and again, a U-Haul.
Yeah, or if you know somebody that has a truck, there are plenty in this area.
Horse trip. Or, again, you're looking at, I want space. I want my hobby farm. I want my hiking trails. I want my whatever it is. So you're buying something with some acreage. How many acres? Is there a limit to how many acres you can buy?
So there's this very specific regulations on if there's surplus land. As far as acreage goes, it's very rare that you run into any kind of problem there. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you'd have an issue with that.
So again, homesteaders, all right, you need at least, I think it's 5 acres?
I believe so, for homesteaders, yeah.
To be considered homesteading. So 5 acres, 5 to 10 acres, which is a lot of space, folks. It's a lot of space. You can get your hobby farm, you can do your homesteading, and you can do this with no money out of pocket. So, Joe, talk about the qualifications for USDA loans, though.
Sure.
What do you need if you want to pursue a USDA option?
So with it being no money down, they do look for some specifics to make sure, just to kind of vet you as a buyer. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing that gets in the way sometimes is there are income limits. Now, it is based on the county that you're wanting to buy in. So I can't give you an exact number, but for me, the limit in my area was, I want to say it was like $109,000 right?
Is that per person or household?
That is per household.
Okay.
So if you're looking at, there's a possibility you make too much money to do this. But if that's the case, then we can always look into other options. It's not like these properties are only available with USDA loans.
Right.
The USDA loan will fit that property, but if you make too much money, or the other big issue that sometimes happens is you have to have at least 3 trade lines that have been paid in full and on time for the past 12 months. Now, rent counts as 2. So, if you've been paying your rent for the past year on time, in full, you already got 2/3 of the work done. Now, the other one can be car insurance, be a car payment, be a cell phone bill, it could be utilities, it could be health insurance. The list goes on.
Wow.
You sometimes have a hard time trying to.
What about my Starbucks trade line?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get into. That and like maybe a bar tab that wouldn't work, or Netflix.
He totally went there.
Yeah, well, I mean those things are not exactly, they aren't gonna fit the bill. But anything that you can validate that you've been paying for 12 months in full on time, you're doing pretty well.
Very interesting. What about credit requirements?
Credit requirements, you have to have at least a 580.
That's very doable for a lot of people.
Very doable for a lot of people, yes, absolutely. And if you're not at a 580, guys, Devin's a credit repair specialist. I will end up doing a soft pull on credit just to see what's out there for you, just to see what problems need to be fixed. Credit repair doesn't take as long as most people think. You're probably not years in the hole.
Yeah.
Most credit can be fixed within about 6 months.
Yeah, and in the cases where it is extreme and it's very, very low, or there's a lot of problems, then there are specialists that I can refer you to that they would have a cost, but they are very, very good. And I've had people see a credit score increase of 120 points in 45 days.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not promising that, but I'm saying that is doable even in the most extreme situations.
Right.
So the point is this: if you got a job and you breathing and you want to buy a house, we can find a solution.
Absolutely.
And if you're looking in these rural areas, again, you can go conventional, you can go, but there is this other product, USDA, that can help you save money, keep that money in your pocket, and move in. Now, let's talk about the requirements for the house, though, because not everything qualifies, even if it's in the right area.
Right. So, USDA follows the same guidelines as far as an appraisal goes as VA and FHA. Anything government-based needs a government appraisal. So, as you're going through that list, you will notice there's some stuff that's pretty strict, like no peeling paint. There's a lot of things that are more safety-based, like if there's stairs, there has to be a handrail. There can't be any loose wiring. The windows have to be intact. The list goes on, but I have a very specific list that Devin and I share on what exactly needs to be intact on the house.
The key thing is it needs to be essentially move-in ready. You need to be able to buy the house, move in, live in the house. Now, again, that doesn't mean that it can't need some updates. Maybe the bathroom's a little outdated, maybe the kitchen's a little outdated, but everything's functional.
Yes.
And working. You know, the cabinets aren't falling off the walls, the sink isn't leaking, those sorts of things. But really, guys, that's going to be an issue in almost any house that you're going to buy, no matter what kind of loan you're using.
Yes.
Unless you're paying cash, then you can buy whatever you want. So we do have to look at those things. And again, sometimes we can look at those and say, hey, that's not in a USDA area. And that's a big change. As you mentioned, there were people doing USDA loans in Independence just a couple of years ago.
Absolutely.
You can't do that now. But just a couple of miles down the road from Independence is Pioneer.
Yeah.
That's still a USDA area. Now, there's not lots and lots of houses available in Pioneer, but the point is there are options. You just have to go a little bit out. And some people say, well, I want to be close to the city, but I want some space. There are places, Alexandria, a lot of Campbell County, not all of Campbell County, but a lot of Campbell County still qualifies.
Well, and the bottom line is, if you are looking at a property and you want to know if it's USDA eligible, contact Devin. Call me.
We can look it up.
Yeah.
We can literally look it up. So, yeah, there are parts in Campbell, Kenton, and Boone County, you know, Burlington, Hebron areas, which are growing, so they're not going to stay that way for long. But then if you're looking a little further out, Pendleton, Grant County, Bracken County, those kinds of areas in northern Kentucky, we can definitely find you something that will fit USDA. The issue is going to come down to the condition of the house.
Right.
That's the big thing. Now, I do also want to mention with this, because I've had this happen personally in a couple of USDA deals with clients, that because it is USDA, it does require an additional approval beyond the lender approval.
Yeah, it has to be approved by USDA.
So Joe does the loan and they give us the all clear, the underwriter looks at everything, you've turned everything in. It then has to go to...
It has to go to the United States Department of Agriculture.
USDA.
Right.
So that process can add a few days
Yes.
to the time frame. And worst case scenario, and I mention this because it seems like every other month they're talking about possible government shutdowns because government doesn't seem to know what they're doing. Not a political statement, that's just the reality. But I had this happen, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019, where there was a partial government shutdown. USDA was one of the departments that was shut down. I had a woman who was waiting for USDA to approve her loan. It was shut down for 20 days. So we had to extend the contract, and we didn't know because there was any day Congress could have come up with a solution. So it was literally like every 3 days we were extending a little bit more because we were hoping they would come up with it and open back up. Now that's worst case scenario. Okay. But that is something that you definitely have to be aware of in our current political climate because there is this extra requirement for approval.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, government shutdowns are more frequent now than they have been in any memory that I have, but they are fairly infrequent still.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually happened once in my career, but it did happen, but we hear about it all the time, so I wanted to mention that. However, that doesn't mean this isn't a great loan.
It's a great loan.
And it doesn't mean it's not a good option for you to pursue if you are looking in these more rural areas.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, guys, I bought my house with a USDA loan. It's a great loan. It's a great loan for first-time home buyers. Mm-hmm. So,
or people that, you've got great income, but maybe you also spend a lot of your money.
Sure.
And so you just don't have money in the bank a lot.
As long as you don't make too much money. Keep in mind, there are income limits for USDA.
However, if you're looking along the river cities, if you're saying, I need to be in the 2-cent loop, this is not going to be the loan for you.
No.
And that's okay too. We got options.
Exactly. We have other options for you.
We got other options. So if you want to know more, you can reach out. Devin Croner, Coldwell Banker. You can go to therealestatepastor.com.
Joe Vandenberg, the preferred rate, guys.
We're here to help.
Exactly.